with my time. That's another thing. Don't waste time. Do something with my time. It's going to be difficult. It's going to probably, sometimes you have to wake up early. I have to wake up early at times to study. I had a family. I have an autistic son. And you'd come home at 11 o'clock at night. You have to take care of the family, and then you have to study to get up for 4 or 5 o'clock next morning to go to work to take care of patients. So, there's a heavy sacrifice in life, and
it's constant.
It's constant.
It's constant because part of what you're understanding, not in terms of the levels of patience and understanding that it would take, of course, for you to raise your son and to be able to deal with those things, but also in your practice. Because one thing, as you said about studying, you're in the land of liability, and so apart from the boards and all these people telling you what you could and couldn't do, and you proving, not so much them wrong, but yourself right in where you knew you could be in your champion mindset, you're also now at risk of, every time a patient comes in front of you, that the right thing needs to be done, or there are consequences.
Very much so. And this is why in life there's a certain level of perfection that you have to have in your industry, and that's what really sets you apart, being good at what you do. And for example, I'm going back to the ghetto. You have guys who are good with phones, who are good with graphics. Utilize that, tap into that energy. And I want to say something. I want to expand that when we talk about out of the comfort zone. Something like fatherhood, very important. The examples for the kids. You have the kid there with the mother. It's not, you don't have to come home drunk every night. You have to be drinking, smoking, cursing in front of the child. Where you take a step back and say, you know what? Let me try to groom this kid now to have a better life. So again, you're stepping out your comfort zone by doing the routine things where the block might do, your friends may do, to say, you know what, now boy, I'm going to start reading to him. I'm going to start spending time with him. So
these things are very utopian. They sound very great and they sound ideal, but the reality is, in the same way children emulate what they see, it's the same way that father, that person who's become a father, most not planned, may be emulating what he has then seen or not seen and not been part of. So we may say that they shouldn't come home drunk, or they shouldn't do this and they shouldn't do that. But if they don't know better, then what they're doing is they're in survivor mode.
And you know what though, Robert, it's very important to say, there will always be those ones. I'm not saying I don't have a template. I don't have a blueprint.
But what I'm saying to you is, within that, the same way you said when you were in school in chemistry and you had almost a tribe around you, persons of influence, persons who you could look up to, what is then needed in those circles is persons, whether the person realizes it or not, persons who then say, listen, you know what, I'm going to go in those communities, or I'm going to be on shows like this, which is the nature of a show like a podcast like this, which was about men's health, to reach young men, to be able to say, hey, this is a space of courage, let's talk. To be able to say, hey, I see you, I hear you, I feel you. You may not know how to communicate, but let's talk. Let's find a way. And even if you're not aware of maybe some of the misgivings in your environment, how can I help? Let me try. And you may flick my hand away, but I have to be the one that recognizes that talent in you, recognizes that you are somebody. There's something in you, regardless of who you are, because nobody's born bad. There's always something in someone. And when I say I'm talking about us as men who know better, are we going to embrace the young men? Are we going to embrace our brothers and say, hey, let me help you or assist you, support you along your journey.
And that's very important. Again, that's where community comes in, because you always have talking about the true sense of a community leader, okay, where, good examples in the community, that could, take that kid who they realize needs a football boots, or they don't have school books, that will try to get the church involved to help them. So I think despite some fathers having poor examples growing up, there is, as you said, we're not born bad, there is something in you that resonates to say, you know what, I could improve this. And this is my child now, I want something better for them. them. But as you rightly said, sometimes they don't have an outlet. They don't know how to do it.
They themselves struggling.
They themselves struggle.
As a child, I always say, part as a father's really true desire is to ensure that his son is better than he was.
Yes.
Ultimately, it's the only person in your life that you want to actually be better than you are. But we have to take a short break. We are really talking about stepping out of your comfort zone. I'm here with Mario John. We're going to delve a lot more into what is indeed your comfort, and is there comfort in the discomfort?
Lucozade, bring the energy. Unbeatable taste, new look.
Welcome to a new era of driving in Trinidad and Tobago. Hi, I'm Jamie, brand manager for Omoda and Jeku, two global automotive brands, redefining style, technology, and performance. These brands are built on innovation, precision engineering, and forward-thinking design. Whether you're drawn to modern sophistication or bold capability, there's something here for you. Let me introduce to you the Omoda C5, a sleek, turbocharged crossover designed for everyday style and comfort. The Jeku J6, a rugged, all-electric SUV built for adventure on or off the road. The Jeku J7, available in petrol and plug-in hybrid, combining efficiency with refined performance. And the Jeku J8, a premium SUV experience where luxury meets advanced technology. Omoda and Jeku, designed for those who expect more out of every drive. This is just the beginning.
Dry, irritated skin can make everyday life uncomfortable. For those with eczema, psoriasis, or sensitive, damaged skin, Manuka Derm is made with medical-grade Manuka honey, not regular honey, known for its soothing and healing properties. It helps calm, protect, and support skin recovery. Suitable for dry skin, skin tears, excoriations, and minor superficial wounds and burns. Manuka Derm, powered by Manuka honey. Available at pharmacies nationwide.
Okay, let me see you Cherry Hill. Yeah, now take it back. Let me see you rock off, shake off. Let me see you rock off. Let me see you kick right. Now step forward, now step back. Lucozade, bring the energy. Unbeatable taste, new look. Shake off. Let me see you rock off.
This is Manhood. We're talking about stepping out of your comfort zone. Rob, you spoke about
Comfort.
having the comfort, being comfortable in an uncomfortable situation, and that is very important, because think about it. Somebody who is in the gym, for example, if you want to build muscle, let's say you're trying to be body beautiful for Carnival, you want to run Chancellor, okay, you want to be going in the gym, so you have to go through a certain level of pain before you see the gain. So you're being
the muscles literally tear.
You're being, you have to be uncomfortable in that situation in order to get the end goal, which is the comfort, right? So it's kind of like that, whether be it academics, whether be it entrepreneurial, in anything that you do, whether be in the elite athletes, they know it, the swimmers, you have to run, you have to work hard, and sometimes you just have the runners. Think about the ultra marathon runners who run 300 kilometers and stuff. They have to sit down and they suffer through this.
They suffer through the blisters.
But again, in life, you have to sometimes be okay with this, because there's an end point, and sometimes you may may not see the end point, but you're doing this because you have to. And you may not do it out of love. You may have to do it because of financial gain. You may want to do it because, you have to serve your family. You may not want to come to work in the morning at all. But guess what? You have to do it because there's a certain element of survival and fulfillment to it.
Peter Drucker said it best. He said, the only constant in life is change, and with that is also the comfort in the discomfort. And there are many things I use sometimes. The analogy of the frog in a petri dish. And remember back as you spoke about chemistry, the little petri dish, and you have the Bunsen burner under it, and the water starts to boil. And if you put a frog in there, the frog is going to stay in there because not that it's not feeling the water getting warm and hotter, but because it's like, hey, this is my comfort. To me, to jump out this petri dish, I can probably die.
Yes.
But so it will rather boil to death in because of that comfort, and that's so much a life lesson, a narrative of so many people where they rather stay stuck. They rather stay in the mud than to actually move off and do something, because to take that next step into the unknown it comes down to fear.
It comes down to fear.
And fear brings off a lot of different things. And so with me saying that, I want to come back to, as we spoke about fear.
You have to face it.
You have to face it. You taking that step, what you're doing is you're giving us a story of very factual as to how things progressed or didn't in certain cases, where you are today. But there were stories and feelings and emotions behind that. What I want to tap in a bit, Mario, is I want to understand some of those feelings, because to say that you had board members, your peers, all of these people telling you couldn't, that nobody's born with it. Just even in a champion mindset allows you to push forward. It still doesn't stop the emotion of feeling alone at times.
Not only feeling alone, but it's a matter of
dejected.
It's kind of like somebody telling you, I want you to climb Mount Everest without any climbing gear and in a Speedos. No, that might be impossible because you will get hypothermia and die. And you need climbing equipment. But is a reality. There's something realistic about how you feel, and sometimes you have to kind of go to your feeling and emotion, and sometimes it's like luck of the draw too. You look at professional footballers, a lot of them, when to get to that level, there's a heavy luck factor. So yes,
right place at right time, but they also tell you that luck is opportunity with plus preparation.
Yes,
gives you luck.
And strange enough, and exactly, I was absolutely prepared for every single step of the way. When I go into my interviews, for my boards, I would always have a 6-month plan, a year plan, a 3-year plan, to the point that my wife or other people would say, boy, you have to be mad, you obsessed with this thing. Yes, there's a certain the Mamba mentality. There's a certain level of obsession that you must have in a trade, and I'm coming back to our cultural movement in Trinidad, because I love my culture. Now that I live in America, I come back now for Carnival, and I see the great things. You have
not just the women. When you say the great things.
Yeah, those are the women. Of course, we have that. I mean, the most beautiful women in the world. But I'm talking about like how we are now marketing, how we are selling Carnival to the world, for example, with Tribe and Spirit and the other bands and everything. And all our soca artists now, trying to do things in Europe and that sort of thing, because we're really competing with other genres and stuff. As that is stepping out of the comfort zone. They are really, really trying their best to put Trinidad on the world.
They're pioneers, because there is nothing out there.
And something like that will really drive me and say, boy, look how these men doing it, or look how guys approaching this. Let me try that too. So
people understand, Mario, to cut you, but people understand, as you said, that when you really think about it, how scary must it be when Bungie, Kes, I know Kes is performing in Paris soon. You have Marshall, who performed in front of how many hundreds of thousands of people in India. When you're going out there and you know that it's one thing if you're performing in a particular genre and someone doesn't know your music, at least it's within the genre. But when they don't know your music, they don't even know the genre, and you're coming out there to perform, you have no idea what you're going to meet.
Yes.
You have no idea where you're going to derive the energy from or how they're going to react.
Yes.
And
you just take the plunge.
You just take the plunge. And people don't understand how powerful for the Nylas, the Bungees, the Patrice, the Destras, the Marshall, Kess, what they're doing out there, that's scary stuff.
Very scary.
And only when they pave the way, because they are going to make the breakthrough. This is music that people need to hear, need to understand. When that breakthrough comes, then the others are going to be able to enjoy and stand on their shoulders.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, the discomfort in something that when you're in your comfort zone, which is Trinidad and Tobago, and you already, I mean, let's face it, Trini is not easy, you know. If you don't like something, Trini will let you know.
Yeah, very critical. Correct.
But the comfort, the comfort in that discomfort is bearable. You know it's a genre. You have maybe a repertoire already of a couple songs you can pull from. You know how to manage that, you know. But when you're now seeing you're going out there and facing that crowd and just have people who may come out and just...
And you know, I'll extrapolate that to my journey, Robert. It's kind of like sometimes when, you know, you go and you present in a setting with all the national authorities, or you're speaking to all the big dogs in orthopedics in my subspecialty. And sometimes it's a pinch yourself moment for me, because I was like, wow, look how these guys, I mean, these are guys, when you're training, you read all their articles, you know, you see them. You know, my colleagues laugh at me, say, you're a real ortho groupie, because I like to go take pictures with like the older guys and stuff, because for now to be sitting in their space now, and to
breathing the same
about,
air.
Breathing the same, and to talk about, because these are the pioneers, as I say, we stand on their shoulders. It's almost like, it's kind of like when Shaka Hislop said he had, at the end of the game against Sweden, he had just lie down and just look up in the air to just take it in. Sometimes I feel that way. I just want to just take in the experience, like, wow, these guys are brilliant men, brilliant minds.
How do you see yourself, though?
Well,
are you in imposter syndrome?
What is that?
Imposter syndrome.
How you view that, I should say.
So imposter syndrome, where no matter how much you've achieved, like there are times that, I mean, I've been doing this for 20 plus years, whether it be directing, presenting, and I still find myself, when I'm in that moment, there are times that I might look around, even with you know, in other persons, whether it be international presenters, and go, am I fooling people here, boy? Am I really good at this?
All right.
Like, have I?
Fantastic question. So with me, I think I have the level of confidence to know that I'm an exceptionally competent surgeon and I help people and patients do well. So that alone gives me a certain level of buoyancy. So when I'm in a forum with worldwide...
You know you're the
Exactly. Not me personally. I mean, I give them
the respect. But you put in the work.
I'm putting in the work. Yeah. But not only that, I can ask the necessary questions, because you must always be curious. That's stepping out your comfort zone too. Curiosity.
Yeah.
Think of that too.
Yeah.
Right? Curiosity. So even with these guys, they say, well, you know what, this young man is asking pertinent questions. When you're asking them certain technical details about certain, I'm an anterior approach specialist. Even within the hip and knee world, when I do a hip replacement, I go through the front. It's a kind of a new thing. Not really new, but it's more and more doctors are learning it, and I've been immersed in the technique for close to 12 years now. So, but when I ask the questions, now they can thoroughly appreciate, wow, we can trust this guy with information. He knows what he's asking. He knows what he's talking about. So again, you use that to really push you to the next level, where now you want to start taking on more complexity. You want to start doing a little bit more in that side of the industry. So and then they'll invite you to review journal articles. They want to bring you a part of the family, and it makes you feel good. And as I said, as a Trinidadian, it's so interesting as Trinbagonians. We really, really, really have a kind of edge when we go to the UK or United States, outside, let's say outside of race and stuff. I'm talking about
this is what I wanted to. I mean, I wanted to continue with that train of thought, but I want to, as you said about complexity, I also want to talk about complexion. And as you said, outside of race, is it that do you feel that you've really truly been accepted fully on the academic side, or is it that, wow, this black man from a black Caribbean man is now achieved this, which makes it more, I wouldn't say interesting being the word, but makes it more unbelievable in their eyes?
To be, Robert, you are touching, we could talk about this for hours. It has been an exceptionally difficult journey being a person of color in the United States to get to the level to which I have reached. Okay.
And Caribbean.
Being a Caribbean internet, because now you're an immigrant, you have an accent, you have your person of color, and there's always a high level of skepticism. And not only that, not from somebody will have a personal hang-up, but there's also a systemic side of things that can hold you back. And then not only that, you have patience, but how do you go above that? You have to be earnest. You have to be genuine in your approach. You have to show people your true worth. When I am dealing with patients, you reach a stage where they do not see color or they do not hear the accent. They're just seeing a human being, helping them, serving them, and he's good at what he does because he helped my neighbor, he helped my sister. Your reputation is good. So when you are getting to that level, yes, there are an insurmountable amount of obstacles to get to that level. And guess what? You have to have the staying power, because many times I tell myself, boy, you want to throw in the towel. I've had those moments. I'm not saying you're stepping out your comfort zone in honky-dory and I do this and I do. No, you have your low moments. You have the moments when you don't say, boy, let me just come out of this country and let me head home or something, because you're not feeling accepted. You're not feeling a part of the thing, But then sometimes you realize, boy, you have such a valid and that comes with maturity. That comes with spirituality as well. How you view yourself in the world. But it is exceptionally difficult. But the key is to remain strong. And again, I'm extrapolating this to the elite athletes. When it is Richard have to go below sub 10, he might try it 10 times as opposed to the next man try it once and get there. So again,
I know you're running against Usain Bolt.
Yeah. So it's a certain level of tenacity. Remember that word. So you have to talk about curiosity, we talk about tenacity, stick-to-itiveness. That's what tenacity is.
Stick with it,
yes. And you continue on that thread. So yes.
There's always that thing, as we talk about the Mamba mentality, where, Cristiano Ronaldo and a couple others, you always hear the same thing. There's a commonality in the behavior, in the mentality, in the belief with all of these. I recently looked at a documentary with Michael Phelps as well. And the first is the belief that you can be the best, or that you want to, and you're not necessarily using the word best. There's just a list of achievements that you want to do. So in Michael Phelps' case, he knew he wanted to beat as far as he was concerned, there was a record by Mark Spitz. However, he did not see himself as the next Mark Spitz. He saw himself as the Michael Phelps.
Yes.
And in order to do what he had to do, there was this list of things that he knew, if I am to be my best self, I need to do these things. So therefore, if someone is training once a day, I need to train twice a day. If you're training 3 hours a day, I need to train 4 hours a day, twice a day. There are no days off. And he took no days off until he achieved his record.
Yes, for years.
That Mamba mentality is the same thing. He was on the court before everyone, and he was on the court afterwards, taking the shots, looking at it. And, we talk on the show a lot about success is a number of failures. And every winner is a loser who tried one more time. Because what we see, and Michael Jordan talks about it as well, what we see so many times is that we ask ourselves how much successes they've had, how many shots they've scored, but we don't hear about how many have missed.
Failures, correct.
How many failures and what they've done. But we're taking another short break. I know we're talking about stepping out your comfort zone. When we come back, Mario, I really want to hear about what are some of your mantras? What are some of the things that you've used, those tools, those mechanisms to take yourself out of that comfort, to be able to manage in the discomfort and to now achieve being top orthopedic surgeon.
Lucozade, bring the energy. Unbeatable taste, new look.
Recession have you down? Don't lose hope. Head on down to Tire Clinic for the recession deals. That should big savings with our road hazard warranty on Dunlop 2021 Falcon tires. Available at Tire Clinic, Cuba, Chaguanas, and Pleasant Park. Tire Clinic, a tire for every need. Call 636-8973 or 636-2958.
What if we each took one small action today that could have big impact tomorrow? What if one family took a stance to reduce reduce waste in our landfills? What if one school made a choice that can lead to a greener Trinidad and Tobago? When you recycle glass, you create jobs, reduce waste, save resources, and help preserve our environment. Glass bottles and jars are 100% recyclable and can be reused indefinitely. Recycle your glass and join the Glass Loop movement today.
Love eating spicy food, but soon after, that familiar discomfort begins. Heartburn, acid reflux, and bloating. Introducing Peptica Gel, formulated with aluminum hydroxide, magnesium hydroxide, and simethicone to help neutralize excess acid. It's sugar-free with no chalky aftertaste and a pleasant orange flavor. Peptica Gel works fast to relieve heartburn, acid reflux, gas, and bloating, so you can feel comfortable again and get back to enjoying life. Peptica Gel, get the relief you need today. Available at pharmacies nationwide.
This is Manhood, and we're talking about stepping out your comfort zone. And we spoke about a couple of things during this particular episode, where we spoke about Mamba mentality, champion mindset, and of course what it takes to be a Mario John, orthopedic surgeon, who goes from captaining a football side at QRC and then pushing through to something that I'm sure you shocked yourself, because
it was a shock to me, to be honest.
I recall, Mario, my days in university in Manchester. I remember the first year when I went into university, I was like, wow, I can't believe I've got into Manchester Metropolitan. That to me was a huge thing, because truth be told, most people who know me know I'm a huge Manchester United fan. And I actually went to Manchester for two reasons. One, because the football team, and two, because my aim was always to go into the Air Force. And then when I applied to go into the Air Force, they said, well, you need a degree. So I was like, what? And at that point, I got into Manchester Metropolitan, and it shocked me. Like, wow, I got into this prestigious university and entered the first year and felt so out of place. Like, is this me? Am I going back to study? And I was never really someone who loved to study, but I was doing it because I had a purpose. I knew I had to get this degree in order to get into the Air Force. And I remember the first year, and all the other subjects I was okay with, but accounts. The accounts drove me crazy. The level of accounts, because it's not your regular accounts at this point, it's part of a business management degree. And it took me closer to the end of the first year. The way it works is that it's not just a final exam on your fourth year. What happens is that you have to, every year, it's a progression. They take a part of that course or your results and they add that up to your final marking. So I was going through so much pressure, and I just couldn't understand when they spoke about transactions, as in the T, right? And so money in, money out, and I was losing my. And I remember one day just sitting down in the library going, oh my God, I'm going to flunk this out. It's going to be my first year. I don't have another shot after this period of getting my degree to go, because there's a cutoff period to get into the Air Force. And this girl just looked at me and she said, look at it like a debit card. Money in, money out. And everything made sense after that. Everything, like the penny just dropped. It came like it just went, all the information just made sense. And from then on, it was, I wouldn't say a breeze, but in terms of that was a building block. I was in that rut, and I just couldn't get past that particular moment. Were there moments like that for you going through? I mean, apart from the other issues that you would have gone through?
Yes. So I want to just, and maybe this will tie into it. They had two events that I think were instrumental in my success. We spoke about QRC being QRC captain. I was never the best goalkeeper in Trinidad, but I was actually behind a goalkeeper by the name of Kevin Leacock, who was the greatest in Trinidad. Kevin Leacock.
That's a big thing to say.
Yes, Kevin Leacock at the time.
Right.
Kevin Leacock was supposed to go on national duty. I was the 4th goalkeeper in the Trinidad in the QRC pecking order. 2 of them in the middle, Neil Beaumont, Calvin Garcia got injured, and then Mario, the 4th keeper. Everybody could be about to go into a intercall final. Gosh, against Malik, Gary Glasgow, and
Malik,
Chesley,
big team back then.
Yeah, Marvin Gordon, under 20 coach, those kinds of names, Erasto Knights. What I did was, weeks before, before I get to school, I used to have Jalili White train me in the morning before school and then go back by Jalili White. So in me, I had an innate desire to want to have success, but it was a fear factor because no, I don't want people to laugh at me. I don't want people to jeer me. And I trained with Dry. It was even deceased Roderick Warner. He was our coach. He went up in school and said, I would just want you to give Mario, today we play Malik in the final, I want you to give Mario the support. Cool. Robert, it was, despite all that preparation, we lost the game. I got one of the fastest goals in intercall history, the first 36 seconds from Gary Glasgow, okay? We lost the game 2-1. Hector Sam scored the equalizer. We came on to loss. But that moment was despite not winning, the defining moment was stepping out of the comfort zone because I was working towards something. Though I was not successful, it built character. Right? It built character. Whereby the next year, I was captain of QRC. And that's when we actually went to the Big 7. We lost to Signal Hill. Jason Duncan scored on me. Goal was, I think, my fault. Me and Kevin Knight in the back. But the fact is...
You haven't accepted it.
I haven't accepted it. We discuss that all the time. But the fact is that you are going to have moments when you are preparing and you have not reached the level or you have not succeeded. But guess what? That...
You're not insured. You're not guaranteed.
You're not guaranteed, but you know what? It builds the character to now go on to the next stage to kind of, and within yourself, you're telling it, boy, I was almost there, you know. I could do it again. So now you have the confidence to try it again. This is when I tried it again. I got into med school. Came back to Trinidad after my degree to do med school. Robert, I was so fearful because now I sit down in an auditorium with very bright people. Girl next to me, number 1 in the Caribbean in common entrance, and this one, you know, number 1 in geography. This one, number 1 in the Caribbean in chemistry. And I'm like, wow! And everybody, you're hearing the accolades.
What am I doing here?
What am I doing here? I'm a footballer. I mean, who could have a little bit of aptitude because I did well in college. But then now that little fear factor now, for 4 years, I used to go back to QRC. Bill Carter, who was the QRC principal at the time, I went to him and I used to study with Rudy Piggott. I used to go back to my seat in Upper 6th Science. I sat there for 4 years, Robert. And I studied 5, 6, 7 hours every night. I came away from society. I call it being a hermit of academia, right? I was in Trinidad, but I was living up in the East. I was not in the West partying, having fun like what we used to do growing up. It was a time that was very serious for me. It was a time of purpose. So even if you're in the Trinidadian bubble and you have, remember you talk about some people don't have the right examples and influences around them, well guess what? I took it upon myself to come away from the influences in that environment now.
That you did not want to be in.
That I did not want to be in. And I'm talking about being very gangster about the approach. I'm talking about I sitting down and I beaten my book for 6 hours. No, in them days they didn't have no phone to scroll, flip phone Nokia. But I didn't have that distraction. The phone is a big distraction now. But the fact is that you're now putting in the work. And there's a fear factor because you don't want to fail. But guess what? Now I start to go for honors, oral, I start to go for distinction. You start to get the accolades. People want to give you your flowers now based on your work. So guess what? That is the motivating factor. You want to do more. You want to do more. And then it blossoms later down the line.
You've seen that light. You've seen that light. And you go towards that and you're not letting anything.
And you know what? There was another doctor who I was talking to when, I was trying to take the USMLE, United States Medical Licensing Exam. You have to do this exam to get to the United States. And I did decent enough. And he was like, boy, I tried to get in orthopedics 2 years and I can't get in orthopedics. If I were you, I would switch focus, yes? I was like, you know what?
The glass ceiling people.
I'm not doing that. I go in and try. And all kind of headache. But guess what? It was done. So again,
when does that moment happen when you go from why me to why not me?
That's a very good question. And again, there were many, many brighter people in med school in my community, and I was like, why me, boy? But you know what? Again, if you want to, think about God or spirituality or being favored, there's something in you that I think, for me personally, I was probably exceptional, or like if I had to be a surgeon, I was probably good at it, where I would help many people to live the life that they live after.
But you see these people that you look up to, that you think are the best, and the people are around you, even though they're not in that same field, but number one this and number one in that, and you're saying to yourself, someone comes up to you with their glass ceiling and says, boy, that's not something to get into, and you say, boy, I see through that.
Well, remember,
I try and
remember, you know me as a child too. I kind of harden.
Yeah.
I don't want to listen. I harden. I playful, but so when somebody tell me I can't do it, it's a good mind. When somebody tell you you can't do something, do it. When somebody tell you cannot do something, I mean, within the law, of course, but when you have a desire to do something or to reach a certain goal, you do it. You go brave. But I'm not saying every time it will be a success.
Correct.
But even in the failure, there's a success.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So that's my approach. And again,
you're always learning something.
Always learning something.
And you know what? I tell myself, people, sometimes when I do something, I hate to waste time, but for the most part, if I go somewhere and somewhere is closed, I try to have a different mindset on things. I said, you know what, Robert? People sometimes tell you, well, maybe you missed out on something, or maybe that's God telling you you've missed out on, probably if you had stayed back here, an accident could have happened. I try to look at it and say, what are you taking away from this? Now I know what time this place opens. Now I know where this place is. When I have to come back, I don't have to use Waze, I don't have to use anything else. So it's just trying to shift.
Your GPS direction.
Yeah, it's just trying to shift your mindset just a little bit to more of a positive as to what am I always taking away from something, Mario? Instead of it's been a mistake, what is the learning element of this? What is the lesson that then helps me be the teaching moment to be better?
Yes, very important.
To then be able to also, and it might not be that I am the one that, they say, plant a seed for which tree you may never enjoy the fruit or the shade. But sometimes you have to say, okay, well, maybe I might not achieve or might not benefit from this particular moment, but I can now tell someone when they call or I'm in conversation, hey, that place is closed at 6. Go this way, that way, because if you don't go that way, you bump into traffic.
Yes.
And therefore, in many ways, you are applauding some people. You're applauding people until it's your time to shine.
Yeah, and this is the message I have for the youth of our country. Yeah? First things first, if I could do it, you could do it. Okay? That's how I see it. But
I don't believe that.
Chase your dreams.
I don't believe that. I don't want you to, a lot of people, when they achieve...
I talk about within your limitations, huh? Because you have to go beyond your limitations. So I said, so
if you want to talk specifically about limitations, the way that you have bust through that glass ceiling, everybody and anybody can bust through the ceiling. They always say how you do anything is how you do everything. But I don't want us to sit here with the normal speak that people say when they achieve high standards and say, I could, like, for example, you're an astronaut, or in this case, an orthopedic surgeon. The truth is, not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
But what they can do, they can learn from your mindset and what you've done to be the best that they can be.
I'm not talking about, you correct me, yes. I'm not saying to be an orthopedic surgeon, but whatever industry you are in that you are serving with passion. Okay, whatever industry, as I say, you could be good with boy. You could open up an iPhone and fix it. Well, guess what? Then you might be able to go and take a small business loan. Rather than take a small business loan for to buy a carnival costume, you're going to take a small business loan now to open up a little phone store, and then you start there. You step out your comfort zone a little bit.
Or the latest shoe.
Or your latest shoe. You want shoes and phones, and you spend wisely, and then you start investing in something different. But for the youth, for the boys now who looking up to your footballers or whatever sports you're in, or even if it's academics or whatever little business, take the plunge, do it, be curious, ask questions. Find you, as you said, we're not born bad. You within yourself will know who's a positive force to say, you know what, let me ask this person to help me, or let me look at this example. So again, now a lot of, as you said, not everybody have good examples, but even on the dreadest or the baddest of boys on the blocks of Trinidad and Tobago, within themselves know that there's goodness. And you know, and the gangs, they talk about boys, love and loyalty. Your love and loyalty, yes, to your small gang, but to your wider community as well. You have a responsibility to everybody. So again,
to Trinidad and Tobago.
To Trinidad and Tobago, to yourself, your family. So
to go there as you have done and fly that flag in a positive way as you have done, because it's easy for everybody to relax and be in a comfort zone. You could have said, hey, you know what, my life nice here. I good with that.
And we just touched on that before. I know we press for time in some sort, but Trinidad, we have a real gift. You see the laissez-faire type of approach we have to life. In a kind of way, it helps you with a coping mechanism, you know.
God is a Trini.
As a Trini, a chill. Even, you know, like in America, I always say, I laugh because, you know, you sometimes you don't know your neighbors, or, you know, you're just working to pay taxes. Everybody just work to make as much money as possible, and they can't live. In Trinidad, we live. We have carnival, we have friends. You can wake up Sunday morning and go next week. You can go and take a sweat with friends and lime whole evening, you know, and you still have a good 8 to 4. You can still have a good 8 to 4, you know. So, again, you're tapping into your culture, you're tapping into the gifts that we have, and the kids wouldn't see that now. We see it now as we get older. We see it now as we're a little bit more mature, but it is something that we must always tap in, that inner, that energy, that inner sanctum, to say that let's go to the next level.
And people won't, what is interesting is hearing your story, hearing Kishon's story, hearing Dwayne Bravo's story, so many persons who've been on this show and in this, you know, conversations that I've been fortunate and honored to have with persons when they open up. It comes down to, you don't see the work. You have to put in the work. You cannot expect the results for the work that you haven't done. When people, like, for example, I'm hearing, now I know where you disappeared to all those years.
Exactly.
You know, you decided, hey, I don't have to put out a sign. I don't have to put a neon sign out to say, hey, you know, gone on vacay or indisposed. You decided that, listen, persons that might be me at the time or like, you might have said, we weren't that chapter in your life at that point. You realized that this is what I needed to do, and you had to put in the work, which was the 6-7 hours, which could not have been easy. To get where you, and all people see now is the nice Rolex on your hand. You know, he's a orthopedic surgeon, he's a doctor, but again, that took work.
But you know,
that took sacrifice.
You know what I used to do as well? I used to be like, at 6 o'clock, I would arrive in QRC, Carnival Tuesday. Just to prove to myself I didn't need that. I didn't have to. I used to like the party. I like my community. I want to do things. I'll go at 6 o'clock. I used to beat book whole day. And then I would, my study partner, I'll be like, well, I know it's carnival time. A lot of stabbings, a lot of bus head. So I used to say, cool, jump in my car around 8 o'clock in the evening. I from 6 to 6 beating book. And then now I going down in Port of Spain General Hospital emergency room now, because the place just pack up with people with stabbings and busted, and guess what? I just asked, well, look, let me help all you out. Let me start to suture. So that's when I really started honing into my suturing skills a little bit, because I want to help out. So again, you're having this desire now to improve and to want to do more, you know, in your trade. But you also, I would say, in determined Trinidad behavior, you're being wicked to yourself. You're being wicked to yourself.
Well, I'm not going to say, you clearly, there's also another term called self-flagellation. I think it's self-flagellation.
Yeah.
So,
yes,
you know, you want to beat, you decide Carnival Tuesday, you decide, you know what, I'm going to watch all this happen, and I'm going to lock myself in a room and study.
Yeah, it's kind of like if I prepared for Carnival, for example, and we have a set of chocolate in the fridge, I'm not touching that because I try to get ready for my Carnival. I know that
mindset is, but before we wrap, Mario, there's a couple things I want to have that discussion, because it will be remiss of me not to talk about it. One of the accomplishments that people, as I said, and I touched on it at the start, our former captain Kevin Molino. So at that point, Kevin Molino is
who we met together. When you came to Orlando, we went to his home.
Right, and he gave me a shirt and all these things like that. And he was so grateful because he didn't think he would have recovered. Here it is, we have a footballer who has gone to play for Orlando City, is doing well as a phenom out there. He was like the next Russell Latapi, and has an injury that really could have been a career-ending injury, and you brought him back from that.
Let me give you a little bit of history about very quickly with Molino and myself. I was very fortunate to be part of the 2007 World Cup under-17 World Cup team that qualified for Korea. I was on technical staff, so I was the physician for the team. I was a young doctor at the time, inexperienced, but it was a fantastic. We went to Holland, we went to Papendal, Atletico Bilbao was there when we were there. I now seeing all of these bright lights and all these and all these doctors now. I used to go into their medical room. I couldn't speak Spanish, and I looking in their medical bag, so it was exceptional. Real Marco. Right?
Orthopedic, what they call it? Orthopedic Pyong?
Orthopedic, groupie. Right? So I just want to learn. I was just picking up things, right? So that's Atletico Bilbao, and looking at the training sessions and stuff, just immersing myself in it. When we came back from the 2007 World Cup, I used to go to where Kevin used to live in Hague Street to pick him up to go and sweat. So I brought him into the community, St. Anne's, and in those days, Sheldon Batu used to come. Gilbert Batu, his father, used to bring him and some of the boys from St. Anne's, Molino, Kyle Lewis, and they used to, some of the members of the national team used to still come and play. And I've always kind of maintained a kind of closeness to Kevin, but eventually we kind of grew apart. But when I moved to Orlando, he was already in Orlando, and he was Orlando City's first signing, and that's when the whole thing with Kaka saying, look, there's a little fellow called Kevin Molino. I've spoken to people in AC Milan about him, and
Ballon d'Or winner Kaka.
Yeah, Ballon d'Or winner. And so back when I say, wow, look at Kevin. Now, at that time I didn't connect with him yet, and then he was signing autographs, and I was there that day in front like a fan, and then I said, Kev, and he looked at me and our eyes met. And, he knew now he had like a family member, yes, I'm his doctor, but I was also like a big brother to him. And then he sustained that. I was right there in the stadium when he sustained the injury, okay? I was there for 2 of the injuries, and I was very happy I was there for him, because when you get injured like an ACL, there's a heavy mental component to come back from it. Okay, the surgery is one thing, but it's the aftercare. And the Orlando City doctor at the time, Darrell Osper, he did the surgery. He was lead surgeon, but I was very present during the surgery. I was actually in the operating room, looking at his technique, seeing. And I mean, from the minute Kevin left the operating room, I was wheeling him out into the car. He was staying by one of the managers there. I was at their home. I was texting the manager's wife every night. How was he doing? Making sure he had his meds. And then we brought in another guy, another former national player, Ricky Alliong, actually, who actually stayed with Kevin to kind of make sure that he had his food, to make sure to kind of bring him back. And it was a very trying time for him. And, this is where the support system is. And, he did so well. Coming back from his tribe. And he, coming from where he came from, he's a grassroots footballer. And, and he reaped the rewards of again coming out of his comfort zone, doing well at the local level. Going to Minnesota right after, then to Columbus Crew, winning an MLS championship,
taking by the captaincy,
and taking by the captaincy, and almost leading Trinidad to a World Cup. I mean, now he's 35 years old, or 33 or 34 on the field, and then guess what? He has his mates with him, Jovan Jones, who was like his brother growing up with him. Even Sheldon Batu was at his side, all of them coming up the ranks. So those kinds of stories, again, the athletes, I mean, I'm not as close to as the cricketers here, maybe Lendl Simmons and stuff, and some of the cricketers, but again, the greatness that we have in us, and with limited resources, and again, stepping out of our comfort zone to get to that level is a fantastic story.
As we close, Mario, what are some of the, I spoke about, we hear a lot of, from you, your passion for Trinidad and Tobago is very apparent, and wanting to give back and what you've achieved. I'm sure there are moments that you said pinch, but you must go like this to say, wow, look where I am and what I have done, and in the why me moments. But there would be dark moments in there. And there were moments that you would have felt alone or scared, or why me, meaning not in the positive sense now, why me as in why am I going through this?
Yeah.
And what are some of, is there a story that you can share with us within that, and how did you come out of that darkness, and what is a mantra that people listening on can take away?
So this is where family comes in. So as I said, I have an autistic son, and when I got the diagnosis for my son, and I'm now going through surgical education, and I have this to deal with, it was an exceptionally low moment, but I was very fortunate to have a very supportive wife and a supportive family structure around me. And that is important, again, in our small communities, or communities here, our communities here in Trinidad, with your family, the people who are around you. Keep good people, keep loyal people around you. But because of the line of work I'm in, I see so much suffering, Robert. Anything that has happened wrong, or anything that you could see is a dark moment, there's always somebody with a darker moment. So that's how I look at it. I look at it as I take dark moments as a positive. Or it's not really a dark moment. It's a moment of having a stepping stone to something.
But did you always think, what I mean? Like,
no, I did not always think
that's what I'm saying.
Now I'm looking back at it.
Now you could look back. I mean, I have my own mantra, which is what I'm asking you to really give us here, is where I say, this too shall pass.
Yes.
And I hold on to that. But in the moments leading up to where I hold on to that, it was dark moments where I wasn't factoring any of that positive shit.
Yes.
I was feeling down, I was feeling beaten,
and
I was feeling scared.
I'll tell you one, and before I got into orthopedic residency, I did a 1 year of general surgery. We call it preliminary year. There's a preliminary year and there's a categorical year. The categorical year, the ones who are committed for 5 years. The preliminary year, they use you as labor for a year or two. And I didn't get any interviews for orthopedics, for the exception of one. That was Howard University, okay? And when I was going through the interview process, I was so concerned because I'm not seeing any hits. Nobody's asking me for an interview. But with Howard, I took that Howard, again, I'm going to show you our next piece of Mamba mentality. I used to leave New York at 3 a.m. to get to Howard for Grand Rounds at 6:30 so they could see me in the crowd. So the Howard program director and the chairman could say, wow, this boy traveling from New York to from that hour just to come to academic encounter to go back up the road. And I used to take vacation to do that too. So now they realizing, let's take this kid have real desire, let's bring in now. Mind you, as I said, there's a 0.1% of Caribbean people or what we call foreign medical graduates.
And you had no guarantee that was going to happen.
I don't know, but I kind of just, you have it in you. But when it is I was realizing, no, I'm probably not going to get into orthopedics. No, and then it's almost like I got the Howard interview like late in the game, and then the program I was at, the general surgery program I was at, was like, well, clearly you want to do orthopedics. We're not going to renew your contract. We're going to find somebody who wants to be committed to general surgery. And I'm like, a low moment. I was like, gosh, what now? Do I go back home? What's going to happen? Do I come back home and work in Port of Spain, or what is my next part of the academic journey? So you're talking about being low. You don't want to go to work. You don't want to come off but then you're going to the interview at Howard now and still stellar students. You're like, gosh, what might be? So it's the uncertainty that is there for so long that is really the scare. But boy, you just have to dig deep and remain strong.
What is something that you tell yourself? Is there a particular quote? Is there something that you repeat? Is there something you've seen?
It's faith. It's really faith. You hold on to say, you Trinidad, if we say words for you is for you, it's that. I say, boy, my words for you is for you. You're hitting this hard. If the good Lord do think, this is for you, well, then maybe it's not. You have to find something else. But the key is the plan B, C, and D. You always have to plan. So even within those moments, I'm not planning, gosh, I go back home and do what, boy? Maybe I should switch focus. Maybe I even leave medicine. Maybe I should go and do something in the entrepreneur. Maybe I should go switch, go into business. Maybe I'm working in the banking sector. You're fishing. You don't know. But you're doing that with so much fear because now you put so much time and energy into one venture. Yeah. And you realize it's not coming to fruition, that you have to now switch focus. But that's where the luck factor or being favored comes in. And it's not for everybody, as I said. Not everybody will have that luck, but it's something you just have to take the plunge. You just have to kind of go with the flow, go
regardless.
Regardless.
What are your closing thoughts of the?
Yeah, again, it's for the youth. For the youth, it's step out your comfort zone. If it is you want to skylark, you want to play the fool, it's important to study your schoolwork. Do your sport, help out your parents. Keep your rooms clean. That's stepping out your comfort zone too easy to just. But in general, just as I said, be curious, be tenacious. Find something you really, really love. And it's okay to be scared. It's okay to fail. The key is to use these moments as stepping stones and think outside the box. As I said, we have a wonderful culture here. Find something to do. Don't just wait. Don't sit on the block and wait for someone to hand you something. Go learn a skill set. Go learn a trade. They have so much things. Trinidad is still a building country. Go learn to build. So just look for the positivity in life. And that's the main message I would have for people going forward.
My message is quite simple. In order to step out your comfort zone, you must first be prepared to change, grow, and transform. Massive one. But you also have to put in the work. You have to put in the work, but there's comfort in the discomfort. And only when you see what is on the other side, you may then tell yourself, hey, I'm glad I made the leap. And even if when you make the leap, you might determine, hey, where I was before was comfortable or I was better off, you've learned something. You've learned what not to do and where not to go. And you can then pass on that advice, or you're more equipped. Remember, and I say it several times on this show, success is a number of failures. Do something. Yes. You've heard it from Mario. Don't let someone tell you. Don't let someone set your glass ceiling. Don't let someone tell you what you can be or what you can't be. Be your best self. We're talking about stepping out your comfort zone. This is Manhood.
Hey, long time I recognize what me keep it cool. Deceitful, bad mind, them wicked and cruel. Can't tie me down with them evil as doing skin. System going to distance them just on our reviews. Better watch yourself, cause them never watch themselves. Wishing only bad for you. A different level I pretend could have never be my friends. Thinking up my name and carrying you. Fake smile on the average face. Humans, a lot of them is hating. Stay woke cause them anticipating on their next move and they congregate. Careful who you appreciate. The nicest wolf in sheep clothing. Keep a close eye on the bird betray. You know them all for me. Terrorizing every level of my energy. Going hard and sticking to myself is the remedy. On a very thin line, it is what it is. Fully focused, dedicated to the music it was meant to be. Trying to kill my vibes, go left heavy. Plus the devil come in disguise, trying to tempt me. I read between the lines and the envy. While they're trying to friend or befriend me, them trappy. Plain talk, real life, them uncomfortable. Plus them unhappy, hence me not trust a body. Glimpse your family, but busting up them out with Tom, Dick and Harry. Kill them dead, somebody clappy. I call them catty. Them not give up in a games, them play the wappy. I switch it up and know the Irie. Them not winning in a. Better watch yourself, cause them never watch themselves. Wishing only bad for you. A different level I pretend could never be my friend. Thinking up a name and carrying you. Fake smile on the average face. Humans, a lot of them is hating. Stay woke cause I'm anticipating on their next move and they congregate. Careful who you affiliate with. The nicest wolf in sheep clothing. Keep a close eye on the puppet. Man, spotlight, hey. Once again, and I see it twice, and we'll do anything for fame that we realize. And the fed up call up my name, not really surprised. Of course, when Lego 5, only fully jump out them brain, don't have no time for aim. From your gathering, me hammering down the team. Two I wanna be on the scene. New news, contest is unrevealed. Mama start to scream. About time, me I turn up the grime, and I fully active. Them a sour line. Now me reach to a point, get them on the front. Cause them love to gate, cause we no hesitate. Better watch yourself, cause I've never watched themselves. Wishing only bad for you. A different level I pretend could never be my friend. Thinking up my name and carrying you. Fake smile on the average face. Humans, a lot of them is hating. Stay woke cause I'm anticipating on their next move when they congregate. Careful who you are for the hate with. The nicest wolf in sheep clothing. Keep a close eye on the perpetrators. Manhood spotlight. Only bad for you. The mission only bad for you. Stinking up my name and carrying news. Fake smile on the average face. Humans, a lot of them is hating. Stay woke cause I'm anticipating on their next move and they congregate. Careful who you are for the hate. The nicest will
Manhood, brought to you in part by Lucozade and Solomon's Bespoke.
Yeah, man.
Manhood, brought to you by Lucozade.